What's up, guys? It's the BC, and today we're here to see if these Blu-rays for The Conjuring 1 and 2 are going to fall during this review. I think they will. Let's see. Anyway, I'm here to review The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, the newest film in the Conjuring franchise. This is actually the third film in the main Conjuring series, but then there are a bunch of spin-offs, and I think it's like the seventh or eighth when it comes to the universe as a whole. But this is the one that directly follows the first two movies, which I have right here. In terms of the Conjuring movies, the first one is the best. The second one is really good. And the rest of the spin-offs are okay. I guess you would say, a fan of the Conjuring movies. I've seen all of them, all the spin-offs. And I was excited to see The Conjuring 3. I was a little scared, though, not because this is a horror movie, but because it is not directed by James Wan. James Wan directed the first two movies, but he did not come back to finish this trilogy. Instead, it was, and I may butcher this name, Michael Chavez, who made The Curse of La Llorona, which was one of the spin-off Conjuring movies. And I thought that movie was okay, but I didn't say, hey, that's the guy who should take over for James Wan. I'm like, he can't do as good as James Wan. Well, color me surprised, because he did a great job directing this movie. Michael Chavez's directing has improved so much since La Llorona, even though that movie was only made like 2 years ago. But he has improved a lot, and I was really pleased with this movie. It's not the best one, but it is really darn good. So, the weakest aspect of this movie is the horror, the scares. They are just kind of run of the mill, and from the last movie that Chavez made, La Llorona, yeah, I mean, if you saw La Llorona, you kind of know what you're getting into here. There's some creative sequences, there are some cool visuals, there are some interesting things that happen when it comes to the scares in this movie, but at the end of the day, they are still just kind of trite. They are jump scares. They are, let's build up this creepy sequence and then end it with a loud noise. I will say that this movie doesn't rely on them, which is a good thing. It does not rely on jump scares, but it has them, and when they do pop up literally, they are not great. They didn't really scare me. There are some actually scary sequences in this movie, but they are not the jump scare sequences. They are the more personal, scary sequences, the stuff that actually has high stakes for our characters. Those are the intense parts of the movie that I really love. But there are just some normal, oh, here's a ghost over here, here's a ghost over here, that's just eh. And that was definitely the weakest aspect of this movie for me, was the scares, which is kind of bad when you're making a horror movie, I guess. But to be honest, I didn't mind, because this movie has one thing, and the first two have it too, but I think it's amplified even more in here, is heart. This movie has a ton of heart. It is about Ed and Lorraine. Ed and Lorraine are the, I guess, heart of this series, especially the mainline series. The spin-offs, I think they're referenced a few times, and they appear in Annabelle Comes Home for a few minutes. But in terms of Conjuring 1, 2, and now The Devil Made Me Do It, Ed and Lorraine hold this series together, and the performances from Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are so good. They are fantastic as these roles, and this one does not skimp out on having them be front and center in both the plot and also their own personal drama. They were definitely the highlights of this movie, along with the guy who plays Arnie Johnson. I don't know the actor's name, but I do want to see him in more stuff, because I think he did an amazing job in this. You really felt, I guess, sympathetic towards his character. He's in this predicament, and it was all because he made a sacrifice. He's a hero, but bad things happen from that, and it led to the famous Devil Made Me Do It case, where he killed a man. And so There's a lot of ways this could have gone wrong. This movie could have run into the trouble of you not liking his character at all. But they really make you empathize with him and make him really likable. Sure, what he did was wrong, and in real life, did the devil possess him to do it? My personal beliefs, no. He may have had a manic episode. He may have briefly gone insane, but no, I don't think it was a possession. Of course, in this movie's universe, demons and ghosts are real, so it makes sense that that would be the cause behind it. And as a character, Arnie is very likable. In real life, do I think Arnie is responsible? Yes. In the movie, no. I mean, when you recontextualize it in fiction, it makes it a whole different ballpark. Anyway, so yeah, he was really likable. I like the actor who played him. All the performances in this movie are great. This is just a very intense movie. One of the things this movie does extremely smart, and this is kind of a minor spoiler, Ed has a heart attack pretty early on in this movie, within the first 20 minutes. And throughout the rest of the film, he is weak. He walks on crutches. He limps a lot. He wants to go out and do things and investigate and run around and chase after demons like he always does. But he has to stay back a little bit more. And you would think that would be an excuse to get rid of his character because they can't pay Patrick Wilson anymore. No, he's still in it a ton. You still get a ton of depth with his character. He still has a ton of interactions with Eric Farmiga. So it doesn't take him out of the story. It just adds to the intensity later on when you're like, if he keeps doing this, he could actually die. He has a heart attack. He could have another one and die this next time. So it adds intensity. Even if the jump scare sequences are not that scary, at least the characters and the personal drama is intense. And it makes this film so much more riveting than it could have been if it was just, here's a scare over here, here's a scare over there. And while it does do that, at least you care so much about the characters that them being put in danger, especially with the heart attack that Ed has early on, it just makes this whole movie extremely riveting and intense. So I was really surprised by this movie. Is it on par with the first one? Not quite. I do think James Wan is a better director than Michael Chavez, but Michael Chavez does a really good job with this one, and I was pleasantly surprised. I really like this one, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. It wasn't perfect. Some of the scares could have been better, but in terms of personal drama, intensity, a great story, it is so good. I really like this movie. One of the better modern horror movies, I think. It's not amazing, but it's really good. Now I will do my Conjuring ranking. Just real quick, go through these pretty fast. Worst to best. The worst one is Annabelle. This movie sucks. Don't watch it. It's bad. It's cheap looking. It's stupid. It's bad. Next up is Annabelle Comes Home. It's weird because even though this is only one place above Annabelle, the first one, this is a much better movie, and pretty much every movie after Annabelle Comes Home is all pretty good. This one is still kind of weak, though. That's why it's lower on the list, but I enjoyed it. It was a decent horror movie. The characters were good, and I enjoyed it for the most part. It's definitely better than the first Annabelle. Sorry about the stupid loud truck outside. Number 6 is going to be The Curse of La Llorona. This movie is okay, about on par with Annabelle Comes Home. It's a little more serious in that movie, so it depends on if you want a slightly more serious movie or a slightly more lighthearted affair. Annabelle Comes Home is a lot more lighthearted than Curse of La Llorona, so just pick your poison. I have them at the same grade, which is a 6. They're both 6 out of 10, but I think this one slightly edges it out because it's a little more serious, and I really like the performance from, I believe, Carla Gugino. No, it wasn't Carla Gugino. It was who played Velma. Linda Cardellini. There we go. Anyway, number 5 is Annabelle Creation. This is directed by David F. Sandberg, and he does a really good job directing this movie, but I couldn't quite get as invested as I wanted to. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a good horror movie. It's just not as good as I wished it was. And number 4, we have The Nun. This is one of the most despised movies in this franchise, and yet I really enjoyed it. I love the setting of this movie. I think it's super fun. I love the cast of this movie. It's just a great time, in my opinion. It's not the scariest, and it could have been handled a little better, but I think the atmosphere and the setting and the cast does such a good job at just setting a great mood for this movie, and it's really enjoyable, in my opinion. Alright, third place, we have The Conjuring 2. This is going to be a little controversial. I liked Conjuring 3 better than Conjuring 2. Conjuring 2 is still great, and James Wan is definitely the best director this series has had. And I loved The Conjuring 2 the first time I saw it, but going back to it, it doesn't quite hold up as much as I wanted it to. It's still really good, but it doesn't quite hit the nail on the head as much as I wanted it to. It's a little too long. It runs over 2 hours, which is fine, but it does leave some parts that I think could have been trimmed down just a little bit. So that's why I'm placing it at the third place spot, even though I really like it. Number 2, Conjuring 3. It's just slightly tighter than Conjuring 2, and it's really good, and I just reviewed it, so awesome. And then number 1, of course, The Conjuring. James Wan, fantastic director. He does such a good job with this movie. This is one of the best modern horror movies, at least within the past decade. I guess, well, the 2010s, because it's already in the 2020s now. We are in the 2020s now. But of the 2010s, The Conjuring is definitely one of the best horror movies of that decade, and it's so great. Every time I go back to it, I'm still scared. It is so intense and just awesome, and I love this movie. It's fantastic. Alright, so that was my review of Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It. The Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It, and the ranking of the Conjuring franchise as a whole. What do you think of my review, and what do you think of my picks for the ranking? I guess leave it down in the comments below if you want to, even though nobody comments anymore, blah, blah, blah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.